Hello, good people of YouTube. Sealord here, and today I just made my Kitakami grind a much longer endeavor by dumping my steel out for the new Tier 10 Italian battleship, the Lauria. Now, the Lauria released quite some time ago in an absolutely ridiculous bundle that had her and a steel camouflage for her put together for the low price of 36,000 steel. That's insane for one ship. Thankfully, she has now re-released at a normal price. You can pick her up in the armory for steel now for the no, well, actually you can get her a bit lower than the full asking price because the coupon reset on December 1st. So now you can get her at that 25% off mark, which is much better when it comes to coughing up steel that takes forever to get. But anyway, she is 31,000 steel in the armory at this moment. I believe I got her for like 26,000 steel after the coupon, so yes, a much better price there. And this ship is probably the craziest ship released this year. Well, the craziest battleship, let me put it like that, released this year, because she has 8 457mm guns equipped with sap, which is kinda nuts. The Italian battleship tech line ships cap out at 15 inches because back in the day, wargaming wasn't crazy enough to give anything larger than 15 inches the sap shells. Sap shells, if you don't know, are basically HE shells that have an incredibly high alpha damage. If you look at most ships in the game, you'll notice that their HE alpha is lower than their AP alpha. Because AP shells, they penetrate the armor of the ships, they explode on the inside, do a lot of damage, and, they're packed with explosives and such, so they have, higher alpha ratings. HE shells, they're high explosive shells. They explode on the exterior of heavily armored ships or on the interior of lightly armored ships, and they do a decent bit of damage, especially if you're the British battleships, right? But they're meant for lightly armored targets and such, and they're mainly used in game to cause fires, right, and get consistent but lower alpha damage. Is how they're balanced, right? Sap shells, you can get consistent damage and still get that high alpha because of, well, the nature of sap. Again, in game it's HE that's coded to basically have a negative fire rating, but they crank the damage up. So when you're shooting these out of battleship caliber guns, the alpha is very high and the penetration is very good because they're large shells. So with battleship caliber guns, you get consistent high alpha damage with sap. So obviously Wargaming didn't want to go larger than 15 inches until, well, they did. And then we got the Marco Polo, who had 16-inch sap. And 16-inch sap is kind of goofy. There's a couple of clips around on the channel of me absolutely dunking on French and British battleships with Marco Polo, because just the way that sap works with, battleships that have lighter armor like that, you can basically hit them anywhere for like 20, 25, 30k alpha when it comes to sap shells, which is kind of dumb. So, some time went on, and then finally Wargaming revealed to us the Lauria, a ship in testing that, has 8 18-inch sap guns. And man, it's something. It looks kind of goofy. I like the way the hull looks. Again, like I was talking yesterday with the Michelangelo's looks. Italian ships are generally some of the prettiest in real life and in game to me, and the Lauria is every bit of that except for the turrets. They look kind of goofy. I don't know why in the world the barrels are so far apart on this thing. It looks so dumb, but everything else about the ship looks beautiful, right? But anyway, so this thing got announced. Not only is it a battleship with 8 18-inch guns, it's not even a battleship, it's a battle cruiser. So she's fast. She can go over 36 knots. And to my surprise, she actually has 32 millimeters of armor plating on her bow and on her stern. typically battle cruisers have like 25 millimeters or 27 when we're talking about tier 10 ships, and they get overmatched by the common battleship caliber guns at their tier. But not the Lauria. She has 32 millimeters of armor. However, that is of course compensated by her low HP. She only gets a measly 79,200 HP, which by tier 10 standards is most definitely quite low, but she can go 36 knots with the speed flag, over 36 knots with the speed flag, which is great for when you need to relocate from one side of the map to the other side of the map, and that's where the battle cruiser part comes in with her, the low HP but the fast speed. And I guess since they didn't give her 25 millimeter extremities, she isn't exactly super fast, but definitely fast enough to get yourself around the map and get you to where you need to be. So, the Lauria, how is she in terms of gun performance? Well, they did a really, really good job of balancing this ship, I'll say that. Because there's quite a few commentators out there, or commenters out there, that basically say, oh, it's like an Italian Thunder. And I guess, in terms of like the gun setup, sure, it's the same gun setup, but it's not quite as consistent as the Thunderer, thank God. The dispersion pattern is a little lackluster, shall we say, for an 8-gun tier 10 ship. Most of these 8-gun tier 10 battleships, they're fairly accurate, like the Thunderer. And like even, of course, less than 8 guns too, like 6 guns with the Shikishima, incredibly accurate guns with 20-inch AP, right? But because of the nature of SAP, again, you can't really have that, so its dispersion pattern can be very frustrating to deal with. It is at least consistently mediocre. If you look at the footage in the background, the grouping is pretty wide for an 8-gun ship, especially at tier 10, but it's pretty consistent with that grouping pattern size from what I've been able to experience here in my time with the Lauria. So yes, it's bad, but it's consistent, and you don't typically have too many dispersion salvos that are just absolutely atrocious like you would get with the old school German battleships. So consistently bad, you can work with that, you get used to it, you can get an idea of where the shots are going to go, everything's going to be fine. Now, even though it is consistently bad, it's still more than enough to absolutely just make ships regret showing you broadside. Anything from a battleship to a cruiser that shows you broadside, unless they've got like god tier armor and your shells hit that armor directly, you're going to chunk them for anywhere from 13 to 30,000 damage without even touching their citadel. It is goofy, especially light cruisers, because again, it's SAP, short fuse, and that is, well, semi-armor piercing. It's going to be a bad day for them. There was a match where I think it was a Baltimore, and I removed like 28k from him in one salvo. With no citadels, just with the SAP pins and with the SAP alpha. That's ludicrous, y'all. And keep in mind, you can, if you take the reload module with the ship, do that every 26 seconds. That is nuts. Now, another trade-off for this is the range. The base range is not great at all by tier 10 standards. It's 19.3 kilometers, which is definitely short for a tier 10 battleship, especially one that's not really made for brawling. Yes, you do have SAP secondaries, but you only have 16 of them, and they are the 132s, so they can get over that 32mm threshold, but they have like a 10.6 second base reload time, so yeah, not really looking like you want to build into that, but you probably could and get away with it. But anyway, that's not the best range on a ship that's, geared for more about the main battery guns. Like, it's got 18-inch SAP shells. That's the main focus of the ship, and the armor is nowhere near good enough for brawling either. The citadel is high and dry and exposed, and given the gun angles, they're not as bad as like the Michelangelos, but you still got to show an uncomfortable amount of ship to get your guns on target. So if you're not watching it, you will eat a broadside, and you will lose like half of your HP, if not get outright clapped by whatever tier 10 or super ship just shot at you. But anyway, yeah, the range isn't great. If you do have Sansonetti, of course, you get a kill. It extends it out to 20.8 kilometers, which is a lot more workable range than 19, right? But it's still only 20.8. It's not a lot. But that is helped by the concealment of the ship. You can get the ship down to, with a full build of the module and the commander, to 12.3, which is really, really good. So you can use the speed and the concealment to get as close as you need to get to the target, let the sap rip, do like 30k to them if you catch their broadside, and then go dark and run away. Now, that's great and all when you do catch ships broadside and such, and you do get most of your shells to land and do high numbers like that. The issue is that not everyone's just going to sit there and let you pump their broadside full of sap, right? They're going to angle, they're going to run away, you know, they're going to angle to you, angle out to you. And sap, yes, while it's still consistent, the dispersion pattern is not quite good enough to where you can just keep, you know, beaming people in the nose with your guns, because they are not that accurate, right? You might get a shell or two, which is still doing like 5k a salvo to a bow-in battleship. I mean, that's still pretty nice consistent damage, right? But you're not going to be doing those, you know 10, 13, 15k salvos to them bow in, unless it's maybe something like a Preußen or a GK with big superstructure. It's just not going to happen. So you do have to keep that in mind. It's kind of like with the Slava, where, like, yes, when you have broadside targets, the world's your oyster, but then they go bow into you. The Slava, you have to be relegated to HE spamming because you only have 16-inch guns, right? With the Lauria, you can keep the sap loaded and just keep tossing it at their bow, but again, you're going to be doing like 5 to 6k a salvo instead of, those big alpha chunks you're used to. And that is the reality of playing the ship at higher tier, at least when you have players that know you're there. Again, if you have the opportunity, you can go dark, run away, get onto their side, and then open up again. But in cases where, like, the flank's falling and, like, your DDs are dead and you're being spotted, yeah, you're kind of up a creek without a paddle at that point. And of course, it happens more often than not nowadays, unfortunately. But, like, overall, the ship is really goofy. It's really fun. It's one of the funner steel ships from what I've experienced. It's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be really used in clan battles. It does not have enough HP. It doesn't have the armor to really tank. And there's no damage over time possible with this ship either. The secondaries fire sap, the main guns fire sap, and AP, which the AP, you only really need to use the AP if you're doing like a drive-by on an enemy ship. And, you can citadel them. Other than that, just keep using the sap. That's really all you need to know. That's the golden rule with anything sap, right? You use the sap unless you can assure a citadel out of the shot you're going to use the AP for. Other than that, keep the sap loaded. You're going to do better with it like that. But yeah, like, it's a really consistent ship. The matches I played with it, 2 of them ended really freaking quick. And I still got like 97, 98k damage. All the other ones went on for, 10, 12, 13-ish minutes, and I was easily able to do like, 140, 150k damage. So, yeah. And I mean, these weren't like fantastic games, but they were consistent games because, again, sap is a very consistent munition. So if you are looking for a still ship to use that still coupon on, and you're thinking, is the Lauria worth it? It's a goofy sap ship. You can get some ridiculous numbers out of it, but it can be frustrating when players realize they can just angle to you, and yeah, you're kind of cooked at that point, and you're just relegated to, kind of chipping away at their health with your sap shells, because you don't have HE in any way, shape, or form with this ship. But I think it's a really well-balanced ship. It's a really well-done ship. It's a solid ship overall. And if you like sap and you like big guns, and you cannot lie, the Lauria is for you. So guys, that's my 2 cents on the Lauria. Let me know what you guys think about the Lauria in the description and the comments down below. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 75,000 subscribers, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. Hope you guys have a wonderful Friday, wonderful weekend. I will be live streaming right here on, actually not right here, I will be live streaming on Twitch tonight, so make sure to come out for that. We're still trying to get that whole situation with my internet worked out, but hopefully it will be a good stream tonight on Twitch, so make sure to come out for that, guys. Hope you guys have a wonderful Friday, wonderful weekend. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.